Yes.
Good morning, Louise Southerden. Thank you for joining us here at Yellow Shelf.
Hi. Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited to talk to you because you are the author of a new book, Tiny. Tiny is a memoir about love, letting go, and a very small house, which I
Mhm.
think you might be in.
I am in my little house. Here it is. There's my stairs to the bed loft. You can see at the back, there's some louver windows in my bathroom. The front door is right here. It's all very compact. It's very light at the moment, actually. The sun
It's
is beaming
beautiful.
in. I'm in a new spot, not where I built it, not where we built it, but it was, yeah, it's very bright. So I hope you can see me all right. I'm in the shadow. I've
I
tried to shield myself.
definitely can see you all right. And I was following you on social, so I do know that your tiny house has been moved. So I would definitely
Yes.
recommend people go and dive in and follow that. Louise, what do we need to know? What does Yellow Shelf need to know about your new book?
Okay, is this the moment where I hold up my book?
Absolutely. Oh,
So
what a
here it is.
stunning cover.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, it's published by Hardy Grant. The designer there did a great job. Um, Back front. It's also got photos inside. There's a photo insert because it's for, it's for people who don't know about building. It's not a how-to, it's a memoir, but I just thought it would help if there's, what does a timber frame look like in a house? What does cladding look like? And, just explaining some of the things that I talk about. So what they need to know is that it's not a how-to guide. It's a memoir about my experience of building a tiny house to live in the Northern Rivers in northern New South Wales. And so it's about, but it's so much more than just about a build. It's my emotional journey as well, because I guess it's about finding home. I'd been a travel writer before COVID for about 25 years and lived a fairly nomadic existence, and always just was renting houses, share houses to start with, and then flats in Sydney, where I'm originally from. And I was kind of happy to keep doing that until the housing crisis started, making itself felt, and rents went up. And I moved to northern New South Wales to have a more affordable life. But even here, it kind of followed me, and it was all, yeah, getting really hard. So that was kind of when I started to think tiny houses might be a solution. But then, so the book's structured in 4 parts and an epilogue. And the first part is kind of about how I came to even think about tiny houses. And it starts in Norway with this experience I had staying in a cabin alone for 2 weeks in southern Norway, in this forest. And it was just this cutest little cabin. And I just really wanted this kind of chop wood, carry water experience. I don't know, something in me just felt like that was, I wanted to test myself, see if I could just be completely alone for 2 weeks. And I just loved the experience. It was so simple. I just felt really connected to nature. I did chop my own wood. There was no electricity or running water. I swam in a lake. It was in summer, so I could swim in a lake every day, and I had to go and get my water from the lake as well. And I just had this little kind of epiphany that I just thought, I want to live like this. And obviously, it's hard to live in a cabin on the east coast of Australia, where I wanted to live and where, my friends are and my life is. But I thought the tiny house was kind of the closest thing to that. And because I didn't have any land, building a house on wheels seemed like it would kind of be a good compromise. So, but at the same time, so the hook of the book, I guess, is that, because there's this side story as well. So there's two main stories. That one is the build happening, but then also there's this relationship that I was in while I was building. And so I started building the tiny with my partner, Max. He was really experienced as a woodworker, and he also had land and tools. So we ended up building on his land. But the relationship was really rickety to start with. And it just kind of, the stress of a build anyway. And it just started not going well. So there's that, you know, yeah, I think that's so the hook of the book is that as the tiny house was coming together, the relationship was falling apart.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of joy of, seeing your own home, designing your own home for your own life and how you want to live, aligning your life with your values, your home with your values. That was so wonderful. But at the same time, there was just such, pain and deep sorrow about this relationship that, you know, I thought I'd found my person and that this was going to be, you know, the long thing for my life. You know, I was in my 50s and I thought this is it, you know, and I guess I also felt like I wanted to stick with it because you run away from things and you don't learn. And I just thought this is my last chance to kind of heal some of the old wounds that I'd had in relationships and see if I could, yeah, make this work. So there's all that. So is that a good that's
Yeah,
kind of the
yeah. So,
answer.
oh, look, and what, so tell us about, I mean, I guess that's the inspiration. Um, you've written other books. I know you've written a book about surfing, I stumbled across as well. So
Yeah,
this is your first fiction, like memoir, I guess, is
yeah,
it? Yeah.
yeah. First
Yeah.
narrative nonfiction, really. Yeah, memoir was such a different beast, you know, and you know, I mean, I've written as a for a living for the last 25 years, but it was just, yeah, I didn't really understand the genre. I think it's really misunderstood as a genre. People think it's self-indulgent, that it's just all about you. It's so, there's so much to it. I really gained a great respect for story and how we're hardwired for stories, and even just hearing someone else tell their story authentically and with vulnerability and honesty, I think resonates with all of us. Like we're social beings, you know, we learn from each other. This is how it's been throughout human history. We learn about life by listening to stories,
Yes.
and every culture has them. And I guess we each individually live with our stories and create our stories. And so I read the whole last year that it took me 2.5 years to write the book, 8 months to do the build, but 2.5 years to do the book. And it was, yeah, I read about 30 memoirs. What really struck me when I was reading them was how different each one was and unique, because they were just so like differently structured and so individual. And so that kind of encouraged me, I guess, to think that I can just write it the way I need to write it. And, you know, what you find with, I'm sure fiction writers tell you this all the time, that, you know, the story kind of just has a life of its own. And there are things that want to be told and that want to be on the page. And you think you're kind of writing a certain scene or a certain kind of book, and it just ends up taking you in another direction. And I didn't really know that the relationship would have almost equal weight in this book to the build, because the build was intensely interesting, and I kind of treated it like I treated a long trip. When when I was traveling a lot, I'd be taking notes and taking photos on trips and bringing back the story so I could relate it. And I kind of treated the build like that. I was constantly taking photos of things that I noticed and writing down little interesting words, or it was like, building is such a different world, and I'd never built anything or done any renovations or anything. And it was like learning a new language. I'd go into Bunnings, or I'd go even just to talk to building suppliers, and I'd have to know the language and how to say things. And it was kind of thrilling when I could order like the steel joists for my lofts, and I had to say, I want these lengths of, 75 by 25 box section steel joists, and that they didn't, flinch. And I was like, oh, wow, like it's like ordering a meal or something in another language, and you're kind of surprised that they actually understand what you mean.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, it was just so intensely interesting. And even the relationship stuff was interesting as well. I guess I did psychology at uni originally, didn't do journalism, but just fell into travel writing later. And so I'm kind of always interested in, why do we do the things we do? And I don't know, it's just, yeah. So that was, I guess, writing about it was my way of exploring that as well, and just trying to understand what really happened and why, and what did I learn from the whole experience, really.
Ah, beautiful. Louise, I feel I'm going to throw a question in without
Yeah.
notice.
Yes.
Um, so look, I know the book's just about to come out, so you've got
Yes.
busy times ahead, and your tiny house has a new location. So once all that settles down, you enjoy life, new location, tiny house, but where to like next? Is there, or are we, is that too soon a question? Are there more books in Louise or?
I'm sure there are probably more books, but I feel like I'm still kind of yeah, this one, I mean, it's funny because you hope that when you're writing something, especially if it's a bit traumatic, as this experience
Yeah,
was in parts, that you kind of exorcise it and that it's out of you. But of
yes,
course, once you finish writing the book, you've
yeah,
then got to talk about it for at least a few months to get it out there. So I don't really feel like I've turned my gaze to the horizon yet. I
yes,
feel like, I mean, I don't know, I love travel, but I'm also deeply concerned about the state of the planet.
sure.
And I do wonder whether I can go back to travel writing, whether,
Hmm.
it does involve flying because we live in Australia. It does involve flying a lot, and
Yep.
flying obviously is not good for for the climate. But I don't know. I would like to write more books, I think. I do like that really in-depth, single-minded focus that you get with the book where it's just with you. No, even when you're doing other things, you get these little ideas, or in the middle of the night, you think, oh yeah, that's what I want to say, or that's how I want to say that,
Yep.
or you get little realizations about things that because you're writing and holding it in your head, I insights into things and into yourself, and
Yep.
kind of like that. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
don't
Well, look,
know.
enjoy this time. I guess my question was without notice, so it probably wasn't fair,
Oh,
but
that's all right.
I
No,
can
no, that's
definitely tell, you're good at what you do. And if there's
oh
another book in you, time will tell. So
yeah, exactly.
um look, Louise, just my final question, which I will put in our show notes to make it
Yeah.
super easy for our listeners. How do we connect with you? I know I follow you on socials. What's the best way, on Instagram, LinkedIn? Where do we find Louise if we're curious?
Well, the best way is probably to go. I've tried to streamline my social media. Partly, I'm on this simple living bent, really. And I mean, living is complicated. Even if you're in a tiny house, it's still hard to live simply. But
Yeah.
I try to just have one platform. So I'm using Facebook. I've
Okay.
got a page called No Impact Girl,
Yep.
named after a blog that I write, which is a little bit dormant now. But No Impact Girl on Facebook is where I post most things about the tiny house and about the book. And it's also, if people want to scroll back, it's actually also where during the build, which was in 2020 and 2021, I did weekly updates of the build with photos and with my little, a post about what I was learning and funny things that I noticed. And that was kind of how that really just was so supportive to me during the build. But it's funny because that doesn't have the book has the full story,
Yes.
whereas the posts were all positive and
Yeah.
partly just to keep myself
Yeah.
upbeat and just remind myself, oh yeah, we achieved this week. And but a lot of my friends, even when they were looking forward to the book about the build, they were thinking, oh, it's going to be like the Facebook post, pretty
Yeah.
positive and everything. And I'm like, well, yeah, there's this other story that I actually didn't mention on Facebook, this
Yeah.
personal. And, a book
Yeah.
can be, I think that's the beautiful thing about a book. It could be a lot more intimate and personal.
Yes.
And you feel like you're just talking one-on-one with your reader.
Yes.
And yeah, but it's quite raw and honest.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit nervous about it coming out next week, but excited too.
Yeah, and look, I think nervous is normal. So go
Yeah.
with it, like lean in, as they say.
Yeah.
Enjoy the ride as well, Louise.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you.
Thank you
Here
for
it
joining.
is.
Yeah. Oh, you have to spin it around. Spin it.
Oh, I
It's
did. I have.
okay.
I'm sorry about that. Thank you for telling me.
It's all
See how
right.
nervous I am?
No, look, you know what? We laugh, so that's good.
Yes,
Louise,
good.
thank you so much for joining us here at Yellow Shelf. All the very
Oh,
best. And
thank you
if
so
you,
much. And thanks for what you do, Joe. This is just such a great platform for writers. And, to have a quick interview like this is what a lot of us need. So, yeah, thank you.
and look, as all authors know, like pay it forward. Whoever wants to talk to me, I'm definitely willing to do that. But Louise, you enjoy this journey with your
Thank
new book.
you. Thank
And
you.
if you do have another one in you, it might even be why we shouldn't be traveling as
Oh,
much. Who
yes,
knows? But
yes.
make sure you come back.
I
We
will let you know, definitely. Yeah.
and enjoy the tiny house too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Stunning. And look, people need to go back and look at the photos because it is a
Yeah.
stunning build. So,
Oh, thank you. Thank you
and
so
then
much.
they need to read the book to really understand the,
Yeah.
yeah, the journey as well. So,
Well,
Louise, take care.
thank you so much. Thanks a lot, Joe.
Yeah.